You do not need a spaceship or a passport or even a plane ticket to stand somewhere that looks nothing like planet Earth. Scattered across America are places so strange that NASA once trained astronauts on them for missions to the moon, places where the ground turns into a mirror, where the sand is bright green, where a hot spring glows every color of the rainbow. None of it is fake or filtered or computer-generated. Every single one is a real, natural wonder you can drive to, explained by real science, and yet it still looks impossible. Not another planet, just America. So today we are counting down 10 places in the United States that do not look like they belong on this planet. All the way to a desert in California at number 1, where 100-pound rocks slide across the ground on their own, and for a century, nobody could prove how. Number 10, the Mendenhall Glacier in Alaska. Just 12 miles from downtown Juneau, a river of ancient ice flows down out of the Juneau ice field, and up close it glows an electric, luminous blue. That color is real, and there is a reason for it. Glacial ice is so old and so densely compressed that it absorbs every color of light except one, and reflects back only deep, glowing blue. It is one of the most accessible glaciers on Earth because you can park, walk a flat paved trail, and stand before a towering wall of blue ice with a 377-foot waterfall crashing down beside it. When summer meltwater carves tunnels up inside the glacier, their walls light up that same unreal blue, though the ice is retreating so fast now that those caves form and vanish from one year to the next, and reaching them takes a guide. Stand at the foot of that glowing blue wall, and it feels like another world. The next one is a beach where the sand itself is green. Number 9. Papakōlea in Hawaii. On the Big Island at Kauai, the southernmost point of the entire United States, there is a beach where the sand is green. Not seaweed, not a trick of the light, but genuinely, sparklingly green. And it is one of only a handful of green sand beaches on the whole planet. The color comes from a mineral called olivine, a pale green crystal that erodes out of an ancient cinder cone rising right behind the beach. Olivine is heavier than ordinary sand, so the waves wash the lighter grains out to sea and leave the green behind, until the beach is nearly 90% crystal. Getting there is a commitment, a 2.5-mile hike each way across open, windy grassland with no shade. But you crest the rim of that old volcano, look down, and there it is, a curve of olive green sand against blue water, glowing like a landscape from another planet. That is the surface. The next one takes you into an alien world underground. Before we get to number 8, if you would rather see the parts of America that look like other planets than the same 5 postcards everyone posts, hit subscribe. This channel is your map to the country nobody believes is real. Number 8. Carlsbad Caverns in New Mexico. Beneath the desert of southern New Mexico hides one of the most jaw-dropping underground worlds on Earth. This is a labyrinth of more than 100 caves, and at its heart lies the Big Room, the largest single cave chamber in all of North America. A space so vast its floor covers more than 6 football fields. And it was not carved the ordinary way by dripping rainwater, but by sulfuric acid slowly dissolving an ancient reef, a rare process that hollowed out these enormous, richly decorated halls. You descend either by elevator or down a steep switchback trail 1.25 miles long, through the natural entrance into a silent world of stalactites the size of buildings. And on summer evenings, hundreds of thousands of bats pour out of the cave mouth in a swirling black river against the dusk. Walk that path far underground, formations vanishing into the dark above you, and you forget the desert exists overhead that is below the ground. The next one turns the ground itself into a mirror. Number 7. The Bonneville Salt Flats in Utah. When an enormous ancient lake called Lake Bonneville dried up thousands of years ago, it left behind something staggering: 30,000 acres of hard, pure white salt, stretching so flat and so far that you can genuinely see the curve of the earth. It is blindingly, almost painfully white, an endless blank sheet where daredevils have set land speed records topping 300 miles an hour. But the real magic comes after it rains. A thin layer of water settles over the salt and turns the entire desert into a perfect mirror, reflecting the sky so completely that you honestly cannot tell where the ground ends and the heavens begin. You walk out into it and the clouds are beneath your feet. Not another planet, just America. The next one is a stone tower that rises straight out of the open prairie. Number 6. Devil's Tower in Wyoming. Rising more than 1,200 feet straight up out of the flat northeastern Wyoming prairie stands a colossal stone monolith, its sides carved into enormous, almost perfectly vertical columns, as if raked by the claws of some giant beast. Its story is written in that shape. Long ago, molten rock pushed up into the layers above and cooled slowly underground, cracking into those towering hexagonal columns, and over millions of years the softer rock around it eroded away, leaving the tower standing alone. It became the very first national monument in America. It is sacred to more than 20 native tribes who know it as Bear Lodge, and it is so otherworldly that Steven Spielberg chose it, in 1977, as the landing site for humanity's first contact with aliens. Stand at its base and crane your neck up those fluted stone columns, and it hardly seems like it belongs on Earth. The next one is where NASA sent astronauts to practice for the moon. Number 5. Craters of the Moon in Idaho. In the middle of Idaho, the green farmland suddenly gives way to something shocking. A vast black ocean of frozen lava stretching all the way to the horizon. This is a monument built from 13,000 years of volcanic eruptions. A rippled, twisted wasteland of cinder cones, jagged lava flows, and dark caves that were once rivers of molten rock. It looks so much like the surface of the moon that back in the Apollo era, real astronauts came here to train for their lunar missions, learning to walk on and study the alien terrain before they ever left the planet. Hike out across that crunching black ground, not a green thing in sight, and it feels like the moon has come to Idaho. That is a black world. The next one erupts in every color of the rainbow. Number 4. Fly Geyser in Nevada. Out on the edge of the Black Rock Desert stands one of the strangest, most colorful sights in the whole country. A cluster of small geysers, only about 5 feet tall, endlessly spraying water into the air, their mounds streaked with brilliant red, orange, and bright green. And here's the twist. This one was not made by nature at all, at least not on purpose. Back in 1964, a company drilling a test well left it improperly capped, and scalding mineral water has been erupting from it ever since, slowly building those bizarre terraced mounds a few inches taller every year. The vivid colors come from heat-loving algae thriving in the hot water. It sits on private land, now owned by the group behind Burning Man, so the only way to see it up close is a guided nature walk across the ranch. Not another planet, just America. The next one is a lake that grows towers of stone. Number 3. Mono Lake in California. On the eastern edge of California sits a lake so ancient, it feels prehistoric, more than 1 million years old and nearly 3 times as salty as the sea. And rising out of its still, mirror-flat water are hundreds of pale, knobby towers of stone, some more than 30 feet tall, like the ruins of a drowned city. These are called Tuefa towers, and they are made of limestone, but they did not erode into these shapes. They grew entirely underwater, where mineral-rich springs bubbled up through the lakebed and reacted with the salty water, building the stone tower by tower over centuries. They only became visible when the city of Los Angeles began draining the lake for water in the 1940s, and the level dropped. Walk among these strange spires at sunrise, doubled in the glassy water, and it is like standing on the shore of another world. The next one is the most colorful hot spring on Earth. Number 2. Grand Prismatic Spring in Wyoming. Deep in Yellowstone lies the largest hot spring in the United States, a vast steaming pool the length of a football field, ringed in bands of the most impossible colors, fiery orange, gold, and green, wrapped around a center of the deepest, purest sapphire blue. And every one of those colors is alive. The blue heart of the spring is scalding, far too hot for anything to survive, so it stays crystal clear. But as the water spreads out and cools ring by ring, different kinds of heat-loving microbes take hold, each thriving at its own temperature, each painting its band a different brilliant color. These are the same extreme life forms that make scientists wonder what might survive on other planets. Not another planet, just America. Walk the Overlook Trail above it, watch the steam drift across that rainbow, and it looks like a portal to somewhere else entirely. Number 1. The Racetrack in California. In one of the most remote corners of Death Valley lies a flat, cracked lakebed, and scattered across it are heavy rocks, some weighing 700 pounds. Behind each one trails a long, winding groove carved into the mud, the unmistakable track of a rock that has moved all by itself across the ground. For 100 years, this was one of the great mysteries of the natural world. Nobody had ever seen the rocks move, and the explanations ran wild, from powerful winds to magnetic fields to, of course, aliens. Then, in 2014, scientists finally solved it. On rare winter nights, a shallow pond forms and freezes into a paper-thin sheet of windowpane ice. By day, it cracks into floating panels, and driven by the gentlest breeze, that ice slowly, silently shoves even the heaviest rocks across the slick mud, sometimes hundreds of feet. It happens only once every few years. Kneel down beside one of those lonely boulders at the end of its long, curving trail with nothing around for miles to explain it. And you understand why people drive for hours just to stand here and wonder. So, there it is. 10 places in America that look like they belong on another planet, and not one of them is a trick, a painting, or a piece of science fiction. The mirror desert, the green sand, the glowing blue ice, the rocks that move on their own. All of it real, all of it explained, and all of it sitting somewhere in your own country, waiting at the end of an ordinary drive. That is the quiet wonder of this place. You do not have to leave Earth to see something that looks nothing like it. Not another planet, just America. So pick one, point the car somewhere strange, and go stand in a place that will make you question which planet you are on. And if you would rather travel like this than follow the crowd, give this video a like and subscribe, and I will keep finding these places for you.